So countries around the world are now threatening to retaliate if the United States imposes tariffs on steel and aluminum imports, as U.S. President Donald Trump has promised. The European Union is getting ready to target quintessentially American products. Let's bring in Peter Mathews. He's a political analyst and professor of political science at Cypress College. Peter, good to have you back with us.
Good to be here,
Are trade
sir.
wars really easy to win?
No, they're not. I think President Trump was way off when he said that. And going back to the 1930s, the Smoot-Hawley tariff, we find that very bad repercussions can occur internationally. We don't need to have trade wars and to put tariffs up on these products. We have a globalized economy. The better way to do it is to do what China does. China subsidizes the steel industry there to make it less expensive to export the Chinese steel to other parts of the world. The United States should actually have an industrial policy where we'd actually support the steel industry to export our steel to other countries. Germany does the same thing. The countries that are successful in having a balance of trade surplus have their government supporting the industries much more actively. And the bottom line in the end is also equalizing wages across the borders. That'll help countries grow in a better way. This tariff idea is a terrible idea in my view, and it'll result in a trade war.
Yeah, and not just in your view. I mean, essentially, apart from the U.S. steel and aluminum industry, I can't think of anybody who has voiced support from this, for this. Even within the White House, Gary Cohn, Mr. Trump's chief economic advisor, is said to have been staunchly against this. He warned that he might leave if these tariffs were indeed imposed. Obviously, we saw the rest of the world reacting to this. So let's look at the politics of this then. We've addressed the substance. This is something on which the president has been remarkably consistent, starting from his days as a businessman to the campaign and now to the White House, this issue of trade. Assuming he actually implements those tariffs, how do you think this actually plays out for him politically?
Politically, it'll certainly solidify his base, which are the 32% of the super nationalists who believe that America first is what happens, is the best way to go. He'll get those people to vote for him again, but that's not going to win in the next election. And that's a problem politically. He thinks he's going to be able to do that unless it's a split vote on the opposition. If there are more than two candidates, maybe three candidates running, he might be able to hang on to his base and win. But this is a losing strategy politically as well as economically. I would advise him to actually change directions and work in a better way for fair trade.
But the thing is, he'll be able to point to the fact that he kept his promise, right? As he's done on a number of important things, rolling back regulations, cutting taxes, and imposing tariffs. Those were all parts of his campaign. He's kept his promise. Well, if he implements the tariffs, of course.
He will claim that, of course, but the question is, what kind of rewards will he get for that? Will that mean that more of America will actually support him? And look at how many people are affected. 80-to-1 ratio in terms of how many workers there are in the industries that would benefit versus, I mean, the industries that would be hurt versus the ones that benefit. So that we saw those numbers in your earlier part of the report. So I don't think that it's going to really help him get more political support than what he has right now, 32, 33, 34%. That's not a winning number in the end.
Do you think he can be talked out of it?
You know something? He flips and flops quite a bit on issues. He was just for gun control yesterday, and today he's against it once again.
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah, I don't think he can be talked out of it, but you never know. He might make up his own mind based on some women fancy. That's quite remarkable to have a president do this. Inconsistent. It's causing havoc. Even the stock market is having trouble. His own supporters in the corporate sector are really upset with him for that. So I don't know what he intends to gain other than solidifying his 32% or so of the support that he already has. So I don't know how to answer that question other than saying we really don't know. If he can't be talked out of it. It depends on what he wants to do on a women fancy, basically.
Yeah, and this appears to be something that's really close to his heart, something that he feels strongly about because he's been talking about it for years. Peter Mathews, thank you very much for joining us on the show once again. Thanks.
Thank you, Cyril.